All right, seeing if a couple people are getting on now. Looks like I've got one so far. Good start. And we're a little bit early, but that's okay. Go ahead and get some of my face off there, maybe. So a couple more folks are getting on. Feel free to introduce yourself if you'd like to. I'm going to get a couple more things ready to go on my end. It's been a couple months since I've done this, and then we can maybe make some small talk while we're waiting. If you have any thoughts or questions for me that aren't super relevant, I guess, or something that the whole group would want. Let's see, how do I... Okay, so there's me. Let's see. Can folks see? I'm sure you can see me. I'm trying to figure out. Now you should see the Google Earth image. Do you see me still, or is it just Google Earth? If someone can let me know, that would be great. Yeah, maybe just let me know what you're seeing right now. If you're just seeing the Google Earth. Oh, it looks like I'm in there. I've got a couple screens up here. So little box with the talking head and then the big mighty Google Earth. Sweet, thank you. And audio hopefully sounds good. Do a couple hellos to the folks that are coming in. Oh boy, I can't go through all the names, but a couple people who said where they're from. I suppose Deborah from West Cliff, Colorado. I don't know where that is. I'll have to look that up. John likes my Roadcut videos. Yeah, we'll talk about those here in a bit. I'll do a little brief update on Iceland as well. There's not a whole lot to update on, but a couple things have developed over the last day or two. Elaine also likes the random road cuts. So funny because I thought it was a dumb idea when I did it, but some people like it. And so that's great. You never know, right? John from Eugene, Eric from Marion, Virginia, Elaine in Tucson. I'm sure it's a lot warmer down there. I'm heading not to Tucson, Elaine, but I'm heading south soon. So I'll get to some of the warmer weather in a week or so. Andrew from San Diego. Very cool. He's friends with Hard Rock Girl. That's awesome. Cool. So great that people could join me today. I really appreciate it. Skagaded, yeah, if you give the thumbs up button. I don't know what happens with YouTube when you just like a live stream, but I'm sure good things happen. So, and you probably feel better. So yeah, thumbs up, like buttons, all those things I'm sure make a difference in the big internet algorithm world. Audio sounds good, so that's good. Awesome. Let's see what else we got here. Riley from Oxford, UK. Well, it's probably late over there. Thanks for staying up late and joining us. Guy from Oasis, Idaho. Don't know where that is either, and I live in Idaho. Yeah, I do know where Tucson is. I was born in Phoenix, lived in Flagstaff. So, John from Spokane, Ken from Santa Barbara, Michael from Scotland. Very cool. Spent a week in Scotland once. Amazing geology. Skagit Ed from Skagit County, Washington. Uh, BLIF from Laguna, New Mexico. Christina from Santa Fe. Claudia from Northern Germany. That's so cool. Here I am sitting in my little podunk office in Idaho, and someone in Germany wants to listen to me. That's pretty humbling. Jake from Salt Lake City. Let's see. Stefan from Iceland. Awesome. Been there 4 times, was there in May of this last year, right before the most recent eruption, kind of missed it. People saying good things about Roadcuts. Wendell, Idaho, Deborah, hello. Yeah, I'm sure there's Nick Zentner folks here. Paul from Lancashire, UK. Hopefully I said that right. Oh, Sarah from Lassen Volcanic National Park. That's awesome. I was just there at the end of August when Hurricane Hillary came rolling through, and unfortunately, the one day I had to spend there, it was socked in with clouds and rain. So I didn't get to do as much as I wanted to. I still have a video, but it's not good, on Bump Ass Hell, which is the hydrothermal area there. But it was pouring rain. You really couldn't see anything, and you really couldn't hardly see the steam coming out of the geysers and fumaroles because it was so cloudy that the whole air was humid. So I don't know if I'll get to look at that one and decide if it's even worth it or not. So Alan from Idaho Falls, Gary in sunny and windy Southern California, Dan from Pittsburgh. Hi, Dan. Oasis is between Boise and Mountain Home. Oh, okay. I think I know where that is. Awesome. Yeah, I do think I know where that is now. I got Adventure Sombrada from Waikele, Hawaii. Billy from Missouri. Barbara from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Again, I'm probably butchering the names. I'm sorry, folks. Mikhail from Russia, Moscow. That's really cool. Wow. Marcel from the Netherlands. Wow, we're up to almost 100 people. This is great. Dennis from Dorset. Rachel from Plain, Washington, northish of Leavenworth. Yeah, we've got quite the diverse crowd here. That's great. Baroth from Vancouver, British Columbia. Harry from Midway. Deanne from Grantville, Georgia. If I miss you, I apologize. I'm trying to get through these. Yeah, Riley was there. Let's see, in Iceland. Day after the last eruption finished. Yeah, bad luck, kind of. Tracy from Pembrokeshire, Wales. I was in Wales once as well. Went to Snowdonia. We looked at some rocks there. It was pretty cool. Jackie from Toledo, Ohio. Let's see what else. I think I'm about cut up now. This is great. So yeah, a couple more minutes here, maybe 4 minutes on my watch, and then we'll get started. Again, thanks for taking time out of your day. Appreciate it. It's pronounced Skagit. Oh, Skagit. Thank you, Ed. Pronunciation is just, I'm really pretty good with languages, but then you just look at something and you want to like Englishize it or Americanize it, I guess, too much, and then think we overthink it sometimes and it comes out wrong. Let's see. Roger from Tacoma, Washington. Yeah, Sarah, I don't know. I did do one video at Lassen that's already out on the Chaos Crags. But yeah, the weather really stymied my ability to do a little bit more there. But maybe I'll look at the Bump Ass Hell one and see if it's worth it. It was just hard to talk about things when you couldn't see it, so it's mostly just me discussing things from the boardwalk when you really couldn't see a whole lot there. Susan from Moscow, Idaho. Gary and Lynn from Eagle. Very cool. David. Rock from Syracuse, Utah. Cool. How cool would it be if my name was Rock? I've always thought, I had a student once whose name was Stone, I thought that was really cool. As a geologist, that'd be a dream. Let's see. Dan from San Diego, David in Twin Falls, right here locally. Some exotic terrain from Oregon, Pocatello, Ken. Oh, and Vince, sorry if I messed up your name. You know, it only shows me what your little YouTube handle is. So if I'm messing up your name, apologize. Franny from Kernville. Elaine wants the coordinates of where I did my Notch Peak video. So I've been putting all the GPS coordinates on in the video description. So with a lot of the newer stuff, newer being, I guess, mostly this year, you should be able to see those there when you just click on the video description. It's either there or it should also be, I've started doing those little kind of Google Earth zoom ins and I put the GPS coordinates there. So that's another place you might look to. But if somehow it wasn't on there, just shoot me an email or let me know and I can get that for you. Greg in Palm Desert, California, heading your way next week. Dave from San Diego. Claudia. Leecher Sea Volcano. I don't know where that is. That sounds awesome. Julius from Sardinia, Italy. Wow, I'd love to go there. Very cool. Well, yeah, if some people, I'll throw the bump ass hell video out there. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and you think I'm just swearing, there's an area, a hydrothermal area at Lassen Volcanic National Park with mud pots and steam vents and fumaroles called bump ass hell. I could throw it out there and, yeah, might as well, right? I spent the time, I hiked in there, got what I could, so we might as well do that. Yeah, I'll try to talk about the recent meteor crater video. Please remind me later, maybe in the Q&A, and I can tell you the story about that. You can't find it anymore because it's been deleted. And there's maybe a fun, well, I don't know if it's a fun little story, but a story nonetheless. So we'll kind of take it from there. So, all right, I'm going to turn my attention away from the live chat and kind of start the show here. So, and I'll circle back to that at the end when we do the Q&A. So first of all, thanks for joining me. Shawn Willsey, geology professor. You guys are awesome. This has just been super fun. I've really enjoyed putting these videos together for you. I'm hearing almost universally good things from people, that it's helping them, that they're feeling educated, that it's helping them, virtually feel a little sense of adventure and learning and all those good things. So warm fuzzies all around, and I couldn't be happier with the way things have gone. I think what I'll do first here is just kind of show kind of a little outline of what I'd like to cover today. And then if you guys have questions for me, let's either do all caps in the live chat, or if you put @ and then Shawn Willsey, it kind of shows up as a color on my little screen, and that'll catch my attention at the end as well. So this kind of rough outline of what I had planned for today. Again, this is informal. It's just a way for us to connect and chat. I've done a couple of these in the past, so if you're new, first of all, welcome. But I generally just kind of update on what I've been doing or put forth ideas, things that I think you, the viewers, might be interested in. Sometimes I've done live streams where I've covered hot topics in geology, like erupting volcanoes in Hawaii or Iceland, but I tend to kind of stay in my lane in terms of like just sticking to things I feel I either have a pretty good handle on or knowledge of. So I'm not one to just find some geologic event happening that I don't know much about and then just start speculating on it. So I either need to do a little research and learn about it, or I try to find things that I already know a little bit about. So, but we'll go over this fall, which has been an interesting time for me. I'm actually on sabbatical, and I'll explain a little bit about what that is and what that entails if you're not familiar with the world of academia, which is kind of a foreign entity in and of itself. Look at this, my first inaugural, I don't know if it was inaugural, my first ever field trip with YouTube viewers that happened this last month. It was a real success. I have a couple photos I can share with that. Talk about some possible field trips ideas I have for next year. I don't have any hard dates on those, but kind of noodling with some ideas, and of course you good folks might be able to be the driving force that pushes me one way or another on that. Another big trip that's in the works and takes some time to put together, that's why it's so far ahead, is a summer 2025 Grand Canyon River trip. I've got dates for that. There's already people that have signed up. Talk about the random Roadcut series, and then we'll do probably squeeze in a little bit of Iceland stuff, and then we'll do a Q&A there. So hopefully that's a good plan for us, and we'll spend an hour, maybe hour and a half together. If you need to pop off, that's fine. This will get recorded and I'll be able to post this. So, but appreciate everyone joining. We got a little over 100 people, which is awesome. So if you were on one of my last live streams this semester, this fall 2023 semester, the college has granted me very graciously a sabbatical. And again, it only exists, I mean, it exists in other places in the corporate world, but I think its roots are in academia. And so basically the college gives me a semester in this case, free from teaching classes as I normally would. But to get that, I have to put forth a proposal or a project. So the project I pitched to the administration actually last spring was to take a sabbatical this fall, tour around the Western US with the idea of putting together more YouTube videos. These YouTube videos obviously have been kind of a big hit amongst you good folks and other people, but I actually use these as well. Not all of them, but select videos I use in some of my classes. And then I usually have like a little quiz or assessment tool that I pair with that video that helps them learn. And the idea there is that it's a way to bring the field trip and outdoor geologic earth processes to the students, especially in online classes where we can't get outside on our own. So I'm located in Twin Falls, which is where the star is. And then I followed, this was the plan originally, and I followed this nearly to a T with one exception. So in late August, I was in Northern California and into Oregon, visiting Lassen and Crater Lake and Newberry and some other places. So you've probably seen most of those videos, although there's a couple more I haven't put out yet from that little trip. I did not do this trip into Eastern Utah. It's close enough I can probably go get that anytime, but that'll be Dinosaur National Monument and some other places in the Uintas, some other places I know pretty well. And then I spent part of September, the end of September, I did a pretty big trip from Wyoming, heading across Wyoming and ending up in the Black Hills. And you've seen some of those videos, but again, not all. I still have one from Badlands, a couple from Devil's Tower. What else is on my list there? A couple more from like Rushmore, Fremont Canyon, and then a couple other kind of random places. Then I did a trip in early October to Great Basin National Park and some areas in Western Utah. And you've seen, I guess, most of those. The bad news for me, well, I guess the bad news, well, just the bad news is a couple of the videos inadvertently got deleted. But when I head down here in a week or so to Southern California, I'm actually going to hit a couple of those places because they're pretty much on the way. They're not too much of a diversion. And I'll go down and hit those and re-record those. So this would be like Pavant Butte, another place you probably never heard of. Well, it's not even a place, it's more of a feature called a Fanglomerate. Well, if you're tempted by that, you'll have to wait and see that. And then what was the other one? Oh, and then these cool little things called pebble dikes that I thought was a really neat little story. And then at the end of October, no, maybe this is middle of October. I'm losing my timeline now. Anyway, I did another trip into the Eastern Sierras, Mono Lake, Devil's Post Pile around Bishop, and then up over Tioga Pass into Yosemite. My wife went with me on that one because she'd never been to Yosemite and wanted to see. So that was a fun little trip. And then the next one I have planned, and that'll kind of wrap up the sabbatical because I'm at this point chasing the warmer weather, but also shorter days. You know, it gets dark now at like 5. And so then you're just kind of stuck until the sun comes up. But I'm going to head down through Vegas, do some stuff on the way down around St. George, the Hurricane Fault, some other stuff. And then I'll end up in the Salton Sea region, around Palm Desert, Palm Springs, Joshua Tree, the Mojave Preserve. I got some ideas there. So anyway, so that's kind of the plan that I had originally. A couple of people wanted to see, like, well, how do you actually do this? Like, what does this entail? These field trips. And really what I'm kind of like a reporter, I guess. I'm just looking for what I think are interesting geologic stories that I can both show and tell. And I don't know all the geology across the Western US or any other place. So it involves me reading a lot. And so reading sometimes, roadside books, sometimes more technical papers, but digesting the literature and then trying to figure out places that I might visit if I haven't been there before, and take a look at it. And so I do this all on my own, other than the trip with my wife. And then I had a buddy fly out to South Dakota and we did some climbing after I'd done some filming there. But for the most part, I do these alone, camping in the back of the truck. I'm really comfortable in this kind of scenario. I set up a tent if it's raining, but this is kind of like, like a little backpacking stove, extra jug of fuel, some water. It's not attractive, it's not sexy and exciting, but that's sort of me. So yeah, so that's kind of the method I've used for these sorts of things. So let's switch gears here though. So in October, sort of prompted by a lot of viewers, were interested in me putting together some sort of field trip. And I admit I was a little hesitant, not really sure what to expect. I've ran field trips before, obviously with students, but also for other groups as well, like museums and different, I guess, geologic and natural history or science organizations. So I'm no stranger to putting together a field trip. But this was the first time I did a field trip just for YouTube viewers. So I advertised these in September and into October. And lo and behold, people came, and people came from all sorts of places, mostly the West, but I had some folks from Louisiana, North Carolina. Some of them piggybacked the little field trip along with other things they were doing, sightseeing, that sort of thing. But it was awesome. So this is actually, I just have a couple of photos I'll share of all these good people. So I'm on a first name basis now with these people, which is kind of cool. So it was really fun for me to connect with some YouTube viewers, people who like what I do. It was an amazing group. They were all awesome, all different levels. Some people had more extensive geologic background, some people not so much, but everyone was super respectful and inquisitive. They all got along great. It was much better, I'd say, from top to bottom than most college students in terms of just the dynamics and they were really bought in, is I guess what I'm saying. So just a couple photos here. This was our group on Friday, or excuse me, Thursday the 19th. And that was the only picture I took. Luckily, I've got some viewers that were generous to share some of their photos as well. So here's a photo of this is at Box Canyon, and it was easy for me to make this first YouTube viewer field trip, just stuff local to where I'm at. I didn't have to like drive anywhere. I thought, well, if they're willing to come here, I'll do my show and tell show and give them the best tour of this part of Idaho as I can. So I ended up just picking 2 areas for those 2 days, but there's a lot of other places we could have went. So we're at Box Canyon here, and in the foreground here, some of the sandblasted, scoured basalt from a flood, but actually not the Bonneville flood. This is an interesting place where we're not exactly sure where the water came from, because the dates and the ages and the orientation of this canyon don't really match well with the Bonneville flood. Here's a better shot of Box Canyon looking downstream. Here's me explaining some stuff. You can see how captivated these folks are. Again, much more in tune and on the ball than perhaps my college students typically. Really good group, diverse. We had retirees, we had people, mid-career, early career. Even I think one of my students from CSI came for one of the days. And then here we are down at Auger Falls, down in the canyon just below Twin Falls, looking at one of these huge rocks that was at least impacted or modified or by the Bonneville flood. We had some discussion on that. This is the Roadcut couple, maybe like 20 miles from here, called Clear Lakes Grade, which nicely shows some pillow basalts and some alluvial sands and some windblown silts and some other rocks. A couple other places. This is again Box Canyon. This is down by Shoshone Falls. Again, I mean, a great group, and it was pretty easy to put together. And so there's our, I think that's our last photo here at Clear Lakes. That's when I took. Everyone just getting into it, investigating the outcrop. Just everyone was just super willing to just jump right in, which was awesome. And I did stop and let them have lunch. So I made sure there was nice places for us to eat lunch. So here we are down at Shoshone Falls Park in the canyon with the leaves, really nice. And this is a couple over by Thousand Springs on day 2. And so the whole experience basically got me pretty psyched to do more of these in the future. I can't say how many, I can't say where. Obviously, everyone would love for me to come, probably, maybe not, to their area and do some sort of field trip. But one, logistically, that would be tricky. And two, I'll probably only go places that I feel like I know the geology pretty well, which is probably broader than you'd think. Like I've been quite a few places, and there's a lot of places I understand the geology pretty well. So that being said, what does it look like moving forward? This is just a brain dump of ideas. By no means am I set to go to these places. There was so much interest, though, in the stuff around here in southern Idaho. Even the people that came for those 2 days were, I think, excited to come back and see other places we didn't get to, like City of Rocks, Craters of the Moon, places over by Yellowstone. There were all sorts of cool ideas that people were bouncing off of me, and I'm still considering those. It could even be something. So I think ideally it might be something where, we've got like a home base. People are in hotels or Airbnbs or camping or whatever, and then we have daily excursions for a few days. Or it could be more of a traveling kind of circus thing where, one idea that was put out was maybe like a tracing the Yellowstone hotspot. So starting, northern Nevada, like at the McDermott Caldera, working away across the Snake River Plain, and then up towards Yellowstone National Park. That would totally be something I could put together, because I know most of those areas pretty well. I might need to do a little bit of work on the front end. Yeah, so parts of Utah, which I know really well. And then I throw these out here as just ideas. I actually did lead a group of, I guess I'll call them friends and acquaintances. People basically asked me to put together a little Iceland trip last year in May. And so I took 4 couples from Twin Falls, 8 people to Iceland, kind of organized it all. We stayed in a house together, Airbnb, and just went on excursions each day. And I kind of like led the whole thing and showed them different places. And then, they were kind of on their own for food and whatnot, and could also do something similar for the Big Island. So these are just ideas. And I guess any one of these for this next year, I think if Iceland or the Big Island were to happen, those would need to start, plans for those would need to start rolling pretty soon. I guess if I knew I had enough people, you folks in the YouTube world, that wanted to do those, might be something I could put together. These bigger trips would probably need to be in the summer, because during the spring I'll be teaching, and so not as much time to peel away and go do something like that. So yeah, so maybe let me know. Either, I guess, your live chat feedback would work, or even better if you shoot me an email and let me know. Obviously, more trips abroad would require a little bit more expense, and so I don't want these to all be expensive ventures. What I did with the one around here was I just asked people for, suggested donation of like $50 a person per day, which I thought was pretty reasonable just for my time and the things I had to do to get ready for it. Obviously, if it was some of these other ones, some of my expenses would need to be covered, but we could figure all that out. So anyway, just some thoughts there. I'm excited to see what you guys think. I'll loop back to the chat here at the end. It's hard for me to like present and read the chat as I'm going. It's too much multitasking. So that leads me to, I guess, another big trip that is in the works and is in the pipeline. And this one's been announced previously, but this is a river trip down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. I did this with my wife and some friends this past summer, and it was awesome. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I could bring people down here every summer for the rest of my life and share the geology with them and soak up the canyon, that would be pretty sweet. And so I worked with the company that we did our trip with, Western River Expeditions. And it's tricky because you got to like think way ahead. They've already booked their 2024 trips are already booked and off and gone. And so I had the next spot available was the 2025 slot. And so I got in the rotation for a private geology charter trip, which is for 17 people plus me, so that's 18. Usually they take 3 guides. If you want to know more about this, I don't want to spend too much time on the logistics here, but I did go over in one of the previous live streams I showed the boat we used and the camping situation, all that sort of thing. But if you're interested, now we've got real hard data and numbers here. We've got dates. So it's July 29th to August 3rd, 2025. The cost here, there's 2 numbers listed. Let me explain why real quick. If you go to Vegas, so if you meet them in Vegas, they will fly you to Lee's Ferry. And because you're using that plane ride, this would be your cost here, the $42.84. If you meet them at Lee's Ferry, though, if you just drive to the place where the river trip starts, it's a little bit cheaper. So that's why there's 2 different fees there. And the guide company, the outfitter, their prices need to be separate from me. And so this other amount here would be my payment per person, which again doesn't need to come up front. The deposit for the Grand Canyon trip, I believe, is $750 per person. And then basically you have until maybe a month or so before the trip goes in July of 2025 to pay that down. So it is a big chunk of money. I don't want to dismiss that. You know, you can go a lot of places in this world for $4,000. That being said, there's only one Grand Canyon. The best way to see it, I think, is by boat. There's places you can access that you can't even hike into, really, if you were to backpack it. It's definitely a lot more, what's the right word? It's less effort than backpacking the Grand Canyon. They have cold drinks on the boat. There's cots, there's chairs. It is camping, but it's not roughing it. At least, you know, you're not sleeping on the ground. They have cots. I think it's pretty cush. At least my view of camping, it's pretty cush. So some spaces have already filled. So some of the folks that came and did the field trips here in Twin Falls with me in October, those folks knew about it, and some of them said, "Hey, as soon as it's open, let me know." And so the reason there's some filled already, some of those folks have filled that in. So anyway, there are 8 spaces left. And then once it's full, it's full, but I would assume I will probably do one the following year. So pretty awesome. So if you're interested, just shoot me an email. I can give you more details. I can set your mind at ease if you have some anxieties about the camping situation, or how does the toilet work, or what do we eat? Are we going to starve? You know, death by whatever in the Grand Canyon. It's actually, I think, pretty comfortable top to bottom. So there's that. So there you go. Grand Canyon. Geez, is there a better place to take a bunch of geology aficionados? I can, you know, it's probably at the top of the list. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the random Roadcut series. So again, this was an idea I had. When did I first come out with this? I think it was September, maybe late September. And I was heading down to Great Basin National Park, long drive. Well, not that long of a drive, but just, you know, kind of bored in my own head and thinking about like different ways, you know, other ideas for videos. And I thought, what if you just stopped at some road cut that you didn't know, maybe you don't know anything about, or you knew very little about, and then you just kind of figured it out on the fly. And so I did that. I stopped at a road cut near Ely, Nevada. And I kind of knew what rocks were in the area because I know the region, but I hadn't really stopped at that road cut ever before. And it was pretty awesome. It was a really, really cool road cut. And, obviously as you approach a road cut and get your nose up to the rock, you're seeing things with a lot of detail and picking out things that you wouldn't see cruising by at 60, 70 miles an hour. So it worked really well, and it really resonated with a lot of folks. And I didn't expect that because I thought it was kind of a silly idea, because in my mind, all the videos had to be not super polished, but I need to know everything about the rocks and their ages. And so that on my end, that takes a lot of preparation. And so to some degree, the random road cuts, if that's what people like, I'm all for it, because to be honest, it's way less work. All I have to do is find a road cut, get out of my truck, and then I'm just kind of winging it with you. But I think it's a cool approach. I think it allows you to use and test your um, observation skills and identification skills, just like I am. And some of you also like the fact that and I hope I'm doing a good job of this, just verbalizing my thought process. I usually start out with like, hey, we're here in Nevada. What do we know about Nevada? Basin and range, lots of limestone, lots of volcanics, and then we kind of just go through the observations and figure out what we can. And a lot of times we don't know how old the rocks are, how many million years they represent. And we don't know, there's a lot of unknowns that may come out of it. But in the end, I think it's a pretty cool format. So my sort of plan moving forward. So thank you, all of you, for just the support and encouragement, because I didn't know if it would just sort of flop as an idea. But I'm thinking at this point I'll do, put out one every week or so. Hopefully that's a good amount, not oversaturated. I don't want 3 a week or something like that. And, so I want to hit it the right pace that I think would work for you guys. And then this, so the funny thing is that as I've thought about this series, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I helped write, let me grab this real quick. I helped write the Roadside Geology of Idaho book. So, oh no, if I try to do a random road cut in Idaho, will that be genuine? Will that be, it's like I'm trying to sneak one past you or something. And I had a viewer, I think it was Greg in Palm Desert, said, hey, just, even if you know the road cut, just approach it like you would if you hadn't seen it before and walk us through it. And I think that was probably pretty good advice. So for the most part, I'll try to do quote unquote random road cuts that I've never really looked at closely. But occasionally, if there's just really good road cuts that are nearby that I have looked at closely, I might stick a couple of those in there as well. So I hope that's okay. I hope that format is, I want to stick to the theme, the random part of the road cut. But I also don't want to deprive you of just really cool road cuts in Idaho or other places that I've been, when they're a good sort of learning venue for us all. So hopefully that will work with folks. And when we get to the Q&A part here in a bit, if you have any questions or comments about road cuts, a lot of you have sent me like, hey, you got to stop at this road cut and check out this road cut. And holy cow, there's so many to hit. Ironically, as I'm looking at my kind of investigating where I'm going to go down in the Mojave, there's not as many road cuts down there because a lot of the roads go through the big valleys and they don't go around or go through some of the mountains. And so I was kind of surprised until I really looked at it that, geez, like the Mojave has not that many road cuts. So, but I've got a couple planned for down there, planned in the sense that I saw on Google Earth that here's a road cut on this highway. And then I can go down to like the street view and just sometimes just look at it and be like, yeah, that looks interesting. Let's just see how that one looks like. Or there'll be some serendipity involved where I just, I'm driving and there's a road cut and hadn't planned on it. Anyway, so, and then the pictures here, there's two coming up. So your next 2 road cuts to look forward to. One on Highway 6 in central Nevada as we were headed down to Bishop, California. My wife pulled over and read her book for 20 minutes while I videotaped a fun random road cut. This one turned out to be pretty awesome, so I was really pretty pleased with how that one went. And then another one in the Eastern Sierra near June Lake, just north of Mammoth Mountain, that area, on this little California highway here. So looked at this road cut. That one was pretty interesting too. Yeah, never a dull road cut, right? They're all special and they're all awesome. So, okay. So let me switch gears now to doing a little bit on Iceland, and then we'll do a little Q&A here to take us to the finish line. And so if you're not aware, the last two, well, those two of the last videos I've put out have been, 15-ish minute updates on some of the activity going on in Iceland. Basically, in late October, there were earthquake swarms that were popping up. This is the Reykjanes Peninsula, and thanks for the people that are trying to help me pronounce things better. So, capital city here, Reykjavik. Airport's over here, Keflavik, former U.S. military base. And then the area in question, so we had 3 eruptions over the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years that occurred in this area. And these were great places for eruptions because they were close enough to a highway that you could get in there, you could hike in there, and I did that in August of 2022. But they were pretty uninhabited, didn't threaten any infrastructure, didn't make it down to the highway, no towns, no people involved, just a good tourist-friendly, Mother Nature, come check out the lava kind of eruption. Awesome. And then more recently, at the end of October, we started seeing signs of unrest in this area here. Now, this is a power plant, and the power plant discharges water that went into this lava field, eventually produced, because it has a lot of dissolved silica in it and clay. That clay plugged up the lava flows, the basalts there, and that water, instead of permeating down, after a while, it stayed on the surface. And because it has a lot of silica in it and it's hot, it has this beautiful blue color. And lo and behold, I don't know when this was, maybe the 70s or 80s, a company went in and developed it into kind of a hot spring resort. And this is the #1 tourist attraction in Hawaii, called the Blue Lagoon. And it's, pretty close to the airport, pretty close to the capital city, Reykjavik. But now we've got an issue with this area here that is showing earthquake activity, uplift. So the ground is literally rising. And all these indicators have led to the conclusion, the hypothesis, that the area is being inflated, it's being injected with magma, which is pretty alarming. And the big threat here is, well, 2 things. The power plant and the hot springs, the resort, are definitely at risk. But equally important is this village here, Grindavik. And if these lava flows were to erupt, there's a good chance, very likely, that they would mainly be moving towards the south, might go over this little pass here or around, and possibly inundate this village here. So I did a couple updates on those. And so that's kind of where we're at, is that there's been lots of earthquakes. And so this is the most recent update from Icelandic Met Office. This is their agency that handles this sort of thing, comparable, I guess, to the USGS here in the States. So this is from today, November 8th, basically stating that they've got a lot more earthquakes happening, and the uplift's still going on. And so this is one of the images, if this pulls up, that just shows the area of uplift, that area I showed there. And what we're seeing is that it's more uplift than they've seen in, I'm not sure. Oh, I had it and then I wasn't patient. More uplift than they've seen with the prior 3 intrusions. So presumably that means that this area has more magma that's being injected into the crust than what we saw with those 3 previous eruptions. Doesn't mean all that magma is going to erupt. It could stay underground. It could erupt some of the magma, but not all of it. But there's potentially more magma available for an eruption, which is part of the reason for the concern. And then, yeah, and then there's the earthquakes there. And then I've walked you through, I won't go over these because these are the same ones I walked you through there, but the GPS data shows the same thing. Uplift, the ground is literally rising, and it's risen about 7 centimeters, about 3 inches over the last 10 days or so, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the world of geology and over this broad of an area is significant. So, which is pretty impressive. And then, so one of the big things that's happened, so as an update, I just kind of was reviewing what's happened, but as an update since my last little video update, I guess on Monday, on November 6th, there was concern and lots of talk about like, well, the Blue Lagoon, and they're not being responsible because they're still open, and tourists are going there and they're unaware. But in the 2 days or in the day after that, the day after my Monday update, so yesterday on the 7th, one of the major uh, bus companies, one of the major tour companies, Reykjavik Excursions, decided to suspend all their services to the Blue Lagoon. So basically, they're not running tourists out there as part of their tour packages because of the threat. And if you go to their website, it lists that basically they're for at least 3 days. So what they're going to do is not have tours go out to the Blue Lagoon for 3 days, which I guess would run through this Thursday or Friday, and then they're going to reassess. So then they're going to look and see like what the seismic data is looking like, what are the scientists saying, is there any change, and then if things still look a little dicey, I would assume they might continue to curtail offering those transportation and tour services out to the Blue Lagoon. If things look like they're maybe stabilizing in some way, they might resume those a little bit. So definitely the Blue Lagoon as a resort has been under a lot of scrutiny and pressure. And I did see this on their website today. So they are open. Is Blue Lagoon open? We are open, and we welcome guests who have already booked their visit. However, we have temporarily paused online bookings to limit the number of guests on our premises. So at a minimum, I guess that's a good sign that they've reduced the number of people on site. And so that's a change over last update I did on Monday. So we'll have to wait and see if anything happens. It's been basically everything's kind of been the same in terms of there's still earthquakes happening. I haven't got any more uplift or GPS data. They might put that out tomorrow or by Friday, hopefully. But we should assume that the area is still at risk, and I would still say that within the next few weeks, an eruption there is likely. I would put it at, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 70%, again, just based on my armchair quarterbacking here in the geology world. So, and then other thing I mentioned, but just to reiterate, the little village there actually has put together and posted their evacuation plans. So if residents and tourists in the area, visitors, if the area was under threat, they highlight here the ways to get out of town. You might think that's kind of obvious, especially if you live there, but especially for the visitors and the tourists there. You can imagine someone's at the grocery store or eating a hamburger, and then, I don't know what kind of alert system they have. There's an alert on their phone or sirens go off or whatever, and they need to leave ASAP. This helps them know exactly what direction they should head to get out of there. So, and then if you're interested, you can always, there's a webcams in Iceland, and it's dark there right now. It's the middle of the night, but this is a webcam. This is the power plant in Blue Lagoon here on the right side. The big glow in the distance is out towards the airport. But if there was to be an eruption, this camera would probably pick it up because this big black area here in the lower third of the image is where we would expect to see the lava starting to erupt. But it will be lava eruption, not explosive eruption for the most part. It could be fountaining of lava, similar to what we've seen with the last 3 eruptions. A very tourist-friendly eruption, not an eruption that will kill people. But the big threat, of course, is getting the infrastructure, and if people are at the Blue Lagoon, out of harm's way. The other thing is that they've started to come up with some other ideas for this power plant supplies hot water and cold water, and I think electricity to parts of this peninsula. And so coming up with some other ideas as to how they might continue to offer those services to residents if the power plant is compromised there. So we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, I'll update you if I find anything else going on there. So, but another good site, a lot of you have mentioned this, so I'll just mention as well. Just Icelandic is a gentleman. I don't think he's a geologist, but he does a good job of just sticking to the data, not speculating. I think he knows enough to kind of understand the process, and he's from Iceland, and so he's done a good job of looking at the area and providing updates as well. He has taken some thermal drones over the area, and he noted some areas right in here that looked like they had elevated temperatures. That's not to say, though, that that's where the magma is going to erupt. It could be part of the hydrothermal system that feeds into the power plant. So that just could be a plumbing system, old fractures or faults where the hot water can get a little closer to the surface. And I don't think, because he just got this thermal drone fairly recently, what we'd really like to see is, a pass over that area, 3 months ago when there was nothing happening here as a baseline, and then comparing images now to it. But nonetheless, if he flies over it, in the next week or two and sees some different readings, that could be helpful in possibly at least predicting the location of the eruption a little bit, probably not the timing. So anyway, I think that's all I had planned in terms of just my little dog and pony show here. Maybe we'll just go back to the Google Earth because we might use that for some questions here. So awesome. Okay, so now I'm looking at the chat and it looks like there's about 140 people. So that's very cool. Remember, if you have a question for me, either at and then my name, Shawn Willsey, or if you put it in all caps, that will help me be able to find your question in there. So I'm going to try to start at the top and see if there's any questions for me. I covered a lot of stuff, just trips and sabbaticals and Iceland and Grand Canyon, all sorts of stuff. So if you're able to follow this, then you're pretty awesome, because I felt like I was all over the place. Let's see. So I'm getting now to the beginning. Let's see. Okay. And if it's something I don't know about, I'll still address the question and tell you. So the first question is from John Erlinson. Could the late great heavy bombardment have anything to do with mineral disbursement? And I don't know enough about that to probably comment on that, John. I apologize. I know what he's talking about, the late great heavy bombardment, early in Earth's history. Yeah, so I don't know much about that. I apologize. So let's see. Some people are telling me here, yeah, I called it bump ass hell, but it's pronounced bumpus. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just read the sign, so I just went with the literal pronunciation there. Let's see. Some other things here. There are some little questions coming in that aren't in caps. So let's see. Ready for more field trips, says David. Awesome. Will you give us quizzes, please? I could. Yeah, you guys want to be students. That's great. Yeah, a YouTube sabbatical. It was pretty odd. I mean, in the academic world, they call these essentially the videos, as I'm using them in classes, are called OERs, which stands for Open Educational Resource. So an online textbook, my YouTube videos, there's other things that exist out there in the internet world that if it's educational and it's open to anyone, essentially, it can be considered this open educational resource. And so, I mean, I was smart about the sabbatical. I made sure to sell it in that manner, and said I didn't go in and say, hey, I want to just go drive around and look at rocks and do YouTube videos. Because I'm using these in classes and using these assessment tools to see if the students understand the locations. And because I have a geology of national parks class, I think that was part of the part of the I guess rationale that helped the administration decide. So I was just happy that they thought it was a worthwhile venture. And I've heard good feedback so far. I'll probably have to do some sort of presentation at the end of this semester or early next semester to the campus community and let them show what the fruits of my sabbatical, what they are. So let's see. Can you plan to visit? Oh, Kelso Sand Dunes, asks Elaine. They have singing sands. I've been by the Kelso Sand Dunes. I will try, Elaine, to get there. It's a tight schedule. I've only got so many days to hit all these different places. I will try to get to the Kelso Sand Dunes. How about that? Let's see. Elaine wants to go to Iceland with me. So there you go. Elaine, if we can get another 7 or so people, like let's do it. Let's see what else. Yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah, Iceland's fantastic and windy. Yes, I would temper any enthusiasm for Iceland with a real hard reality check of the weather there. I think it's great. But it's often chilly and windy and wet, but not always. And so if you go there and you got the right gear on and you're like mentally prepared to deal with not awesome weather, it's just fine. But if tropical warmth is your jam, then you're probably miserable in Iceland. Yeah, Elaine, Wasatch, and Antelope Island. Yeah, I'll probably do a trip down there for sure. I know that area really well. Did my undergrad at Weber State in Ogden. Yellowstone would be a good idea too. If I did a Yellowstone trip, I'd definitely push it into October. That place is, I avoid Yellowstone like the plague from May to early September. Like it's just too many people. Crazy. Um, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Cheeseburger and fries in Iceland starts at $25. Yes, that's true. We stopped when we were there in my first trip was 2016. And my wife and I went to a gas station and got a cheeseburger and fries, and it was $20. So, yes, everything is expensive. It's an expensive place to just exist. But it's worth it. It's awesome. So, yeah, so it sounds like Elaine is really into that. We'll have to talk, Elaine. Grand Canyon is the ultimate road cut. I love that. Format of the road cut series. I'm so happy you guys all like the road cuts. It's great. Let's see. It looks like we're getting into the random road cut part of the presentation. Do you need any graduate students, ones that like to run far? Well, I teach at a community college. So my college is a 2-year college. We do not have graduate students. We don't even have upper division students. I'm at a college where I give them their first taste of geology, which I think is awesome. Basically, I'm the person who delivers the Kool-Aid, and hope that they like it and want more. And I really feel like it's a privilege and an honor to have that role. But if you're asking, yeah, like would I put some graduate students to work? I'm not sure what I would do with them. When I make my own videos, I'm kind of good being on my own. If I had people standing around watching me, I think they'd be bored, because I kind of like develop a little story or script in my head, and I'm looking at the rocks, and then I'm going back over here, and I'm walking back and forth. I'm making silly sketches on my little notebook. And B, it would probably make me a little bit nervous if people were, even though ultimately it goes in front of lots of people. So, yeah, everyone likes random road cuts. That's great. Would I advise not going to Iceland? No, I would still go. In fact, I wish if someone wants to give me their ticket to Iceland right now, then I'll say thank you and I will go, because there's a good chance you'll get to see part of the eruption. And even if the volcano part scares you or whatever, remember, this is a small area. I mean, really the area impacted here, if we drew a circle around it, it's just this little area here. And this is a huge country. So it's not going to impact the airport, at least for right now. It's not going to impact the capital city. And there's so many places to explore in Iceland that if this eruption does play out, it will be bad for this fishing village. It'll be bad for the Blue Lagoon and the power plant. But that's kind of it. Like you'll still be able to get to these other places. So I would not change my travel plans if I had them. Um, let's see, trying to catch up here. I think I accidentally scrolled down. Um, yeah, people like the roadside geology book. Thanks. I'm really proud of it. Um, yeah, and I had two co-authors on there. So I might pick up millions of subscribers if I integrate animals, camping, and cooking into my videos. Oh boy, probably not going to happen. I do like camping. Um, I have a cat, but I don't really like our cat. I just tolerate it, but it wasn't my choice to get the cat. Not that I don't have, well, I'm just not a cat person. Sorry. Um, and cooking, I don't cook well. So that, that would be rough if I added those things to the videos, but maybe I would pick up millions of subscribers. Maybe me cooking, which is a train wreck, would be more entertaining than me doing geology. Let's see what else. Yeah, there's another place. If you can't get to the Blue Lagoon and you're going to Iceland, there's this other similar kind of place called the Sky Lagoon that's closer to Reykjavik, but another kind of outdoor hot spring area. So fun stuff. Dixie is saying she loved the field trip. Dixie was one of the great folks we had here in Twin Falls for the 2 days I did field trips, and she's signed up to go to the Grand Canyon. So her and Eric, awesome. Let's see what else. My thing's kind of jumping around a little bit. Maybe you guys don't have a lot of questions. Let's see. Thanks for all the videos. Yeah, just Icelandic. Someone's knitting and watching me, and that's an undefeated combo. Wish I could knit. I don't even know how to knit. Let's see. Let's see. I'm looking for, oh, here's some questions coming. Sorry. Just kind of get through everything. It's hard to read and talk at the same time. Yeah, they moved some backup generators into Grindavik in case the power plant's unavailable. Yeah, if nothing else, Iceland strikes me as one of the most on the ball, prepared, no frills places I've ever been. Like these people, it's not perfect. Every place, it's not that they're perfect, but I have no doubts that they'll roll with the punches, get people out of harm's way, and do the very best they can and work together. Like I've just been so impressed with them. Jackie wants to know, do changes in earthquake locations mean anything, i.e. more west or east? Yeah, for sure, Jackie. If the earthquake swarm were to change locations, remember these earthquakes are generated because essentially as the magma is moving, in this case, mostly upwards, and now it's moved laterally as well. As the magma is moving, it's breaking rock. An earthquake is essentially rocks being broken. Rocks are behaving brittly. They're snapping and breaking. And they're doing so in this case, again, because the magma is intruding into the crust and that takes up space. And so the magma is squeezing into fractures. It's pushing the rocks out of the way. In this case, it's pushing the rocks up because we have uplift in the area. And so, yeah, if we see the earthquake swarms shifting locations a little bit, that may indicate the magma infiltrating other areas. Right now, it's sort of in this general region here, and I haven't seen any data that shows it's moving, but that's something we've seen in other places. The magma, once it becomes eruptible magma, once its buoyancy is greater than the rocks that it's in, and it wants to go up, it will use whatever the easiest path is to get to the surface. And if that means it moves through some old crack that's over here to the west and can pop up over here, then it will exploit that weakness. So yeah, we've seen that. I mean, Hawaii, I think of the 2018 eruption of Hawaii it was a pretty good example of that. It moved, the magma actually moved out of the summit chamber, drained down the East Rift Zone, and popped up 10 plus miles away in a neighborhood in Leilani Estates. And so right now we would expect that the magma is going to erupt here because that's the area where the earthquakes and the uplift are happening. So that's the best bet. But as time goes by, if we see that earthquake activity change location and maybe ground deformation, right? If the ground is moving up in other places, maybe this area starts to drop, deflate, and other areas inflate, then that would suggest that the magma's migrated to some other place. So great question there. Do I have access to modeled section maps of the Icelandic magma chambers? I don't. I've tried to find some stuff on the internet. I'm sure some of that stuff exists, but it's just harder to access, kind of US to Iceland, kind of the country, going across the borders kind of thing. I just haven't been able to find anything like that. Have I booked a trip to Iceland? No. Yeah, I'm just floating the idea around. I would need X number of people, probably not a huge group. Last time I took 8. 8 was a nice number. X number of people, fully committed, and then we could pull the trigger on that. Which state has your favorite rocks out of all the ones you've seen? I personally love California rocks. Oh boy, that's such a favorite rocks of all the states. I can't pick one. That's just not fair. I mean, all the states have like unique geology, and I mean, I've seen really cool rocks in like most of the Western states, obviously. So yeah, California has great rocks, for sure. Do I post classes on YouTube? No, I do have a series on my YouTube channel on identifying rocks and minerals. It's essentially what I teach my Geology 101 class. And I've got some ideas for this winter of a few other type of classroom type things. Maybe eventually I'll post some of my Geology 101 and other geology class lectures onto YouTube. But that's sort of that's not going to happen anytime super soon. But in the next few months, there might be a few of those that happen. So good question, Wayne. Would have loved to, this is a Hard Rock Girl, would have loved to have done Iceland or Big Island, but you'll be in the Himalayas in the summer 2024. Oh, well, my heart goes out to you. If you want to take me, that would be great. I've never been there. I would love to go there. Elaine asks, there would be 2 of us for Iceland. Oh yeah, well, Elaine's ready to go. So Elaine, her husband, and I are like 2/8 of the way to going to Iceland. I guess that's 1/4 if you reduce it. Clyde asked, do I get paid during a sabbatical? Yeah, the way it works here at the college I work at is you have to apply for a sabbatical. You have to have been here a certain number of times. So there's X number of years. I think you have to be at the college 7 years. You apply for a sabbatical, but you have to have a project. You can't just say, well, I need a break from teaching because I'm overworked. Can I just take time off? So you propose a project. The first sabbatical I took was my first book, Geology Underfoot in Southern Idaho. Writing that book was the main thrust of that project. And this is my second one. So you need a project. And then the way it works at our college is you can either take a 1-semester sabbatical at full pay, or you can take a 1-year sabbatical at half pay. Financially, that was not even a question of which one I would go with. I took 1 semester at full pay. So would I've liked to have had a full year sabbatical? Heck yeah, that would have been amazing. But financially it wouldn't have worked. And then the other thing that you need, at least at our college, is, I'm the only person really, for the most part, that teaches geology classes. But if I don't teach, then geology classes aren't offered. Luckily here, I have a colleague who mainly teaches our GIS, GPS. He teaches soil science and some water resources classes, but he is a geologist in terms of his academic training. And luckily he exists because he was the person that was able to take over. We reduced the number of geology classes, but he was able to teach 101 and another class online for me. So without him, the sabbatical wouldn't have happened. So thankfully for him, that was really good. Dan asks, oh yeah, the 6.9 shallow quake off the coast of Indonesia. I did see that. Any knowledge of a tsunami damage? No, but let's do something fun real quick here, Dan, if you want. So Dan's asking about a specific earthquake. And let's go find that earthquake. So let's go down here to Indonesia, and there it is, along with its aftershocks. So we got to find the big dot in there. Looks like it's that one, 7.1. So yeah, looks like it was revised to a 7.1. So we can click on that. It's obviously in the ocean. And Dan, right now I can tell you, looking at this screen, that this thing definitively did not produce a tsunami. And the reason I know that is if you look down here, and this is kind of higher pay grade geology stuff here. And then they give a little overview of it. And actually the tectonic summary here actually explains this nicely. But this little beach ball looking thing here, I can look at this and the shape of this tells me what kind of fault produced the earthquake. And this tells me it was a strike slip fault, which is again listed right here. And a strike slip fault means that the ocean floor shifted horizontally back and forth. The only way you trigger a tsunami, especially a tsunami of any size, is to have an earthquake that moves the seafloor up and down. So if the seafloor moves up and down, which would be a normal fault or a reverse fault, then that displaces the water above it, and that generates a tsunami. So even though this earthquake was big enough in terms of its magnitude, 7.1, to generate a tsunami, the way that the ocean floor shifted during that fault movement, that earthquake, means that it did not produce a tsunami. So yeah, there you go. That was a great question and made me look really smart. So yeah. Let's see. Big Island trip in 2025. Oh, Rachel, now you're talking. Yeah, I've done a trip with I've done Big Island trips 5 times with students, so I've got that dialed. I could show you guys all around some cool stuff there. How often sabbatical at CSI, Greg? I think I just answered that. You can take one every 7 years. So I've got one now. In 7 more years from now, if I'm still here and I have a cool project and a reason to take one, I could take another one. What about the sump in Fish Lake Valley, Nevada, off of Highway 6? Asked Lynn Marie. I don't know anything about that, so I'll just claim ignorance. Sorry. Let's see. One of my favorite topics, is minerals and getting better at finding, understanding them. Are you thinking about doing content in that area? Asked Julius. Again, I did do a pretty brief basic series on mineral identification. So I'd have you just go to my YouTube channel and look for that. I may go back and redo them because they've actually proved to be, I wouldn't say they're hugely popular, but people are watching them with some regularity. And I did them when I was kind of early on in doing this. And I think I could do a little better job and maybe expand it and include some ore minerals, which I kind of skipped. So yeah, I might do some other ones. Let's see. I think the road cuts would be awesome. All right, Hard Rock Girl and Rachel and Elaine and I are going to somewhere. I don't know. Try road cut visit to Eastern Canada between Eastern Cape Breton and Western Newfoundland. I'd love to get there. I would love nothing if someone can just get me like, a lifetime plane voucher so I could just fly around, go to all these places. I'm happiest when I'm outside just soaking up geology, looking at new landscapes and rocks. Like that's my happy place. So I'd love to do that, Wayne. Did you know that Northern Idaho also has geology? Yes, Eloise, I do know that. Come see the glacial flood features. I'm embarrassed to say that even though I helped write this awesome book, I am a Northern Idaho ignorant person. I don't know much about Northern Idaho. Idaho is a huge state. It is about 500 miles from north to south. And most vexing of all is the fact that we don't have a freeway system to connect the northern and southern parts of Idaho. And so getting to Northern Idaho takes 9+ hours of driving. And for that reason, based on where I live in Southern Idaho, I just haven't been up there a lot. So yeah, sorry about that. But it does have cool geology and I need to learn more. I need to go see more of it. Let's see. Big Island would be a great tour as well. Yeah, Big Island. Yeah, Elaine's been there 3 times, so she could co-lead the trip with me. That would be great. Let's see what else. How about a drone? Oh, okay. So the college bought me a drone. I can fly a drone. I can take pictures. I am not awesome about getting nice, smooth video. My drone videos are kind of herky-jerky. But I have used the drone. In fact, some of the videos, one of the videos coming out, I at least took like the cover shot photo of the feature, which is this big volcanic feature in Wyoming called Boar's Tusk. I did take that with a drone. So I've got a drone. My skills are rudimentary at best. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. How many episodic events does the Grand Canyon show? Asked John. By episodic events, if you mean individual geologic events, holy cow, we'd need one event for every rock layer. So we got, I would guess offhand, if you count all the rock layers in the Grand Canyon and the cutting of the Grand Canyon and the volcanics at the western end of the Grand Canyon and the uplift of the plateau, 20 to 30, just offhand. Yeah. Have ever been to Northwest Washington? Skagit Ed. Yes, my dad lives on Whidbey Island. So I've been there at Oak Harbor. I went to, was it 2 years ago? I went to Wenatchee to a geology field conference. I spent a day with Sky Cooley learning about calcretes. That was pretty cool. And the other day, what did we look at? Was it Wenatchee Pinnacles? I think that's what it was. I can't remember who led that field trip. So I have been in Northwest Washington. I'm not an expert. I need to learn. And it's also, when you drive into that region, there's a sign that pops up in front of my brain that says, "You are entering Nick Zentner country. Proceed cautiously." And so he's covering that area so well that I haven't felt the need to go do any videos there. That being said, next time I probably go visit my dad, I might do some videos of some places that I'm comfortable with, or I can do some research on, not without stepping on his toes too much. So, oh, someone said I missed their question. RH, if I missed your question, if you could add it, I apologize. I'm trying to do this as best I can. Have you ever thought of video T-Rex? Ever thought of a trip to the eastern US? Wish there was a geologist in my general area with YouTube channel. Random road cuts are great, not far from Finger Lakes and gorges. Yeah, I'd love to go there. I did. My nephew, who's playing on the volleyball team at Elmira College in upstate New York, we're going to go visit him probably next year sometime. So that would be a good chance for me to at least see a little bit and maybe do a couple videos. So, other than that, I don't have any big Eastern US trips planned. So it's a big world out there, team. Doing the best I can. Let's see. Yeah, Ken asked about Washington State, kind of just mentioned that. Yeah, let's see. Hopefully, I mean, I think I think what we're learning here though is that even though maybe I'm not hitting places that are near and dear to your heart and location, I mean, really, I don't want to say, I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but like it almost shouldn't matter where it's at. Like here's a place, here's some rocks, here's a story, and then we learn from it. And ideally, I've covered, lots of places. But that's not really realistic. So I'd like to get some other places. I just don't know when it'll happen. I'm kind of constrained to my geographic location and teaching schedule and that sort of thing. So just always know that I wish I could get to more places closer to you. So East Coast geology would be awesome. Mike asks, what indicates that it would be a friendly eruption instead of a violent eruption? I'm assuming he's talking about Iceland. It's the area that erupts, it's basaltic magma, it's low viscosity, it doesn't trap gases. The last three eruptions were fairly benign, very tourist-friendly eruptions. The only time we see explosive eruptions in Iceland is if they erupt under a glacier, or very rarely, and we haven't even seen this for the most part in modern times, if the magma composition is different, if it's evolved to being more silica rich, and that's usually more rare in Iceland, although it does occur from time to time. So, RH, okay, did you ever do your due diligence and look deeper into Antonio Zamora's work? I haven't. I know that's the Carolina Bays guy. He's big on the meteorite impact. hypothesis for the Carolina Bays. I've read and looked at a few things on that. I don't want to, so I don't really want to say one way or another, but it doesn't look like with the age data there that the meteorite story factors in really well. So yeah, I don't think that's the right hypothesis for those Carolina Bays. They're over such a huge area, but I know some people are super hardcore entrenched in that camp, and so they won't agree with me, and that's okay. Let's see. Anything else? Let's all go to Egypt. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that would be great. Green Sand Beach, Death Valley. Death Valley, I don't know how accessible it is right now. They had a lot of the roads cut off from Hurricane Hillary, so I know a lot of roads are still closed. Running on empty. How many times have you been to Iceland? I've been to Iceland 4 times, and I've been twice in the last 3 years. Yeah, I went in 2016, 2018, 2022, and this last year, 2023. Any thoughts on Nick Zentner and Baja BC? No, I don't have any strong opinions. I think Nick's great. I know Nick a little bit. We've met once. We've emailed a few times. We're both doing, I hope and feel like we're both doing great things in the world of geology education. We're just doing things in our own style, in our own ways. I'm not trying to be Nick. I don't want to be Nick. I can't be as prolific and compete with him. I'm just trying to put my little bit of good geology mojo out into the world as best I can. Baja BC, I just haven't read enough on it to have any strong opinions. And I know he's done the whole series. It's just a lot to keep track of. So anyway, apologize for that. Oh yeah, you went to the conference with Nick. That's great. Yeah, in Riggins. I've actually seen all that stuff. I did a trip. The time I met Nick, I was on a field trip in 2015 or 16, and Basil Teakoff was he actually showed us the shear zone, and we went through all that stuff. So yeah, really cool. It's a neat area. Seen videos predicting the large crack on the Big Island will eventually break a large portion of land into the ocean, causing a mega tsunami. Do you have any thoughts on this? Well, it's happened in the past. The Big Islands had large catastrophic collapses, and all the Hawaiian Islands as well have had large landslides that moved out into the ocean and generated presumably large tsunami, although there is some evidence that some of those moved slower, but some probably did move quickly. Chances of that happening in our lifetime, though, team, really, really slow, right? So will it happen again in the future? Undoubtedly, because it's happened in the past, but probably not anytime soon. Pine Valley Laccolith, yep, cool stuff in southern Utah. The Carrizo Gorge. I am going to go to Anza Borrego State Park. There's a couple places down there I haven't seen I want to look at. Oh, people, yeah, I'm kind of just catching up to some of the things I said now. Yeah, I'd love to do something with Nick if he invited me. I think, he tends to, I mean, we're just doing different things. He has access to, partly because he's at a bigger university, and geographically he's an area with a lot more geologists, gets a lot of research professors and talks about their research. I'm not doing any active research. I write books. I do geology education things. If he wants to do something with me, I'd love to do that. But I'm not focused on his area, the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if he would really reach out and want to do anything, but I'm open to it for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Nick and me. Yeah, it'd be cool. I don't know. That'd be fun. Nick and I doing a random road cut together. How about that? Let's see. Yeah, RH, I'm not sure what you're saying there. Feels like that's maybe a little bit derogatory. Yeah, if you don't agree with my stance or what other people think, that's okay. We're here let's just disagree respectfully. Yeah, Split Mountain, Fish Creek area, I'll be there for sure. I don't follow the geology of other planets very often. I find it interesting. I'll read articles every now and then, but not that often. So bottom team, do an extensive video on the bighorns in Wyoming. Limestone pushed up into the 14,000 foot range, says Kevin. Bighorns are cool. Wyoming is awesome, and I only saw a little sliver of it on my trip there. So pretty amazing though. So anyway, I think that's about it. I know a couple people have bailed. We've been doing this about an hour now. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I was able to share some invitations, some information, hopefully answered a couple questions that were helpful. I'm always welcome to do these. So probably when will the next live stream be? Don't know, but you know, when there's something big that happens, that kind of gets me motivated to do one. You know, obviously if something happens in Iceland, I could chime in as well. Otherwise, if things are somewhat quiet in the geologic front, which they rarely are, maybe in a couple months, maybe around the first of the year or something after the holidays, get back on board. But for sure, if you have any interest in or any thoughts about some of the things I've talked about here, some of the possible field trips or the Grand Canyon trip, just let me know. That Grand Canyon trip one might fill up quick. I do think though, if you put the deposit down and then something comes up, let's say 6 months from now or something like that, I think I'd have to check the fine print. You can get your money back on that, and it would open up for someone else. At some point though, I think there is kind of a point of no return where you're kind of like locked in. So, and I know that one's kind of long term. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Wait, let's see, a couple more questions. John, how about doing a session on the Bonneville Ice Age flood? Well, John, I did a whole presentation on it. I don't know if you mean like a live stream session where we could maybe kind of chat amongst each other. That's something I'm open to doing, but I do have what I think is a pretty darn complete presentation on the Bonneville flood that I did in June in Jackson Hole for a group there, and that's on my YouTube page. So great. Well, it sounds like everyone had a pretty good time, and I enjoyed this as well. So awesome getting to virtually chat with you guys. Please let me know if you have any suggestions, questions, whatnot. I want this to be useful. I want this to be something of value that you guys also enjoy. Seems like for the most part, the things that I think of are pretty well in alignment with what the majority of you seem to like. The random road cuts are a big hit. I'm going to keep doing videos. I've got a lot more coming out. I've got a backlog of like 20 videos here from California and South Dakota and Wyoming that haven't even gone out yet. And then I'll be adding to that with some of the ones I'll do here next week when I'm out in the field. So yeah, if you're out in the Mojave next week, you might see me driving around looking at stuff. Yeah, appreciate all your support, all you give back to the channel. Thanks so much. And we'll see you later. Take care, friends, and enjoy.